Welcome to the Founder Fumbles podcast, where we dig deep into real life entrepreneur struggles and comeback strategies. My hope is for entrepreneurs to learn how to bounce back from real entrepreneurs that have real problems. I'm your host, Dahmari Taplin, and here we have Amber Simon.
Hey.
Okay.
Excited to be here, Mr. Dahmari.
Yeah. So thanks for, your patience with me. I know this was it was hard to, getting this all under wraps, but
It was me. I was the problem. I had a flat tire. We were supposed to do this last week, but I had to get my flat tire fixed, but we're here now.
We here now. You know what I'm saying? So what's been going on with Quivr?
Quivr's been quivering. We've been doing pretty good. So just so you all know, Quivr is a pleasure coaching organization. But what we really do is we bring women together and show women how to have a pleasure-first life. And so I actually decided, that's how I met you a couple of years ago, to build an app around that to give women the resources that they need to be able to sustain a pleasure-first life. But when we can get into this later, but I discovered I didn't actually need an app. So we can talk about that later. Yeah, I don't even use that app anymore. I have a different solution that works better for my clients, and that's the one that we ran with.
Wow.
So Quivr started off as a pleasure coaching, right? And kind of side railed and built this app and figured out that wasn't the solution, which is, again, you have to listen to your customers. And we've grown from there, and being able to figure that out has been able to give me the leverage to say, okay, this is the community that women want, and grow that, and we've been doing pretty good.
So you keep saying this thing is pleasure first. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So myself, I was a human resources executive before I started Quivr. And I realized one night I was sitting up and I was working on my third merger for that year. I used to work for financial institutions. And I remember thinking, what are we rated on this podcast? Are we like PG, PG-13? Can we be a little R? Okay, so I was up working. It was 2:00 in the morning. And I remember thinking to myself, I was dating someone else at the time, and this person was in my room. And I remember thinking, I do all this work, I make all this money, and I don't even get fucked. I don't even have pleasure in my life, right? There's no balance here. And so for me, a pleasure-first life is about having that balance, giving women permission to say, no, pleasure is not a reward at the end of a hard work day. Pleasure is something that I'm entitled to. And how do I have that safely? How do I have that informed? How do I have that on my own terms, where I feel comfortable with my boundaries and I feel comfortable talking about my non-negotiables? So that's where it came from. I knew in my life as a high-achieving woman that there was no balance and there was no joy in just working, and not having anything in return for that. So,
Right. Yeah. So are you only educating women on how to get pleasure from other men or women? Or it's just for, what if they don't want to have a partner? That's always something.
Amazing question.
You know what I'm saying?
So you don't have to be partnered to have pleasure coaching. So for example, before you met your amazing wife, was your life void of pleasure? Right?
No.
So what we do is we teach women how to sustain pleasure partnered or without a partner. So for myself, before I met my current partner, it was really a matter of, hey, what brings you joy? And not just what brings you joy, do you have balance in that space so that when it comes time to the bedroom, even if it is just me, myself, and I, do I know what I like? Am I okay with experimenting in that space? Am I okay with being able to say, this is just me, and I'm still going to be sexually gratified without having a partner? So those things are all very possible. And so if you go through the Quivr method, we can talk about what it means to you and your partnership, although I don't coach partners, it's one-on-one. And then the other piece of that is, if you're not partnered, how do we make that shift in that mindset that you have to be partnered in order to have sexual gratification? So, don't need a partner for the Quivr method.
Dang, that's crazy. So the Quivr method.
Yeah.
So that's away from the app which you're talking about. Before. So before we go into the Quivr, because I want to ask you one more question before it goes to there. Is this just only for women?
This is only for women. So when I started Quivr, my biggest thing was there's so many resources for men, right? And a woman's experience is completely different. And I wanted to service a different kind of woman. I wanted to service a woman who knows that, hey, I've got it all. I've done all the things. I've built the family. I built the business. I sustained somebody else's business, whatever that situation is. But she's also looking for more. She's looking to elevate, and she knows that it's possible. She just doesn't know how to get there.
Right.
And for me, it was personal. It was absolutely personal. I was in a marriage for 17 years that was void of pleasure in all aspects of that. And so for me, I thought for women, this is a unique avenue, especially for those of us who may not think that we have time to experience pleasure in the way that we want to.
Wait. So you was married. And not having sex in your marriage?
We had 3 kids, so we were having sex. But for myself, it was unfulfilling sex. It was, I can just say this, it was 17 years and that person, I never experienced an orgasm with them. And not to be confused with it was his responsibility to give me one, because I also wasn't, because you can't give someone, right? An orgasm, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I realized that my needs weren't being fulfilled because I was intimidated and scared to communicate those needs. And so consequently, my marriage was void of pleasure, at least on my end of the street. I don't know what he would say, but yeah.
So, I know this is kind of way off topic, but you got those, some people that just don't care about sex. Like they don't care about pleasure at all. Like,
don't confuse pleasure with sex, though.
Pleasure and sex.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Oh.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So I can experience pleasure eating a strawberry. It tastes good, feels good in my mouth. It's pleasurable.
Right.
But when we're talking about intimate pleasure, that's when we talk about sex. So that's where I see the difference, right? But from a Quivr perspective, it's all the same. Because if you lack balance, and so when you talk about from the boardroom to the bedroom, when you lack that balance, when you say, I hate my job, this is a horrible experience, I have to deal with this all day long, and then I have to go home and pretend to be happy, it's going to affect the bedroom, right? And so generically speaking, we do say just pleasure in general at Quivr because it's all connected. If I have a bad day at home, odds are I'm probably not going to have a great sexual experience later that evening or afternoon or in the middle of the day. So
what kind of advice would you give a person that has just been busy at work all day and really wants to have, sex or, experience some pleasure, but when you get home, you're just tired?
Yeah.
Do you communicate that with your husband or wife?
Absolutely.
Like, do we schedule some time, or do we do something just for her?
That could be done for sure. So I always tell people there is no shame in scheduling sex, just period, right? But the first
calendar.
Seriously. But now that doesn't mean at all odds we're just going to have sex, because if you're just not feeling it. But that's where the Quivr method comes in. We teach women how to sustain that pleasure in all aspects, right? And so, for example, for myself, in my past life, if I went to the office and I had a particularly hard day, it was easy for me to allow that mindset. Say I had a bad interaction with my boss. It was easy for me to let that day spiral. But then at one point I had a COO who told me, he was absolutely amazing and I still love him to this day, do you hate our CEO more than you like your job? And I was like, okay. But that mindset helped me think about in terms of my personal and pleasure life, right? My intimate pleasure life. Am I going to allow this job to be more important than my joy, my happiness, my pleasure? And the answer is no. So it's a mindset shift. So if you go through the 10-month Quivr method program, the idea is that you learn how to set up those same boundaries in your workplace or your place of responsibility, regardless if that's your home, if you're a stay-at-home mom. Hey, how do I set up boundaries even with my person to say, hey, when you get home, I know you've been at work all day, but so have I. And so this is the division of labor that we need in order for me to be able to keep my sanity and we can spend time together later and enjoy each other. So in terms of you get home and you're tired, you've had a long day, blah, blah, blah. What's the best thing to do is, articulate that and say, it's been a long day, but I still want to be intimate with you. Can our intimacy not be intercourse tonight? right? Can our intimacy be we snuggle on the couch and watch movies, right? So there's other ways that we can get around that and still have intimate time with our partners or even ourselves. I'm just going to sit on the couch and eat a bowl of popcorn and feel good about it. Beyond just, hey, when I come home, let's bang one out.
So, for me, I kind of feel like when it comes to like intimacy and like sex with your partner, like you don't have to like go in every single night. No. It can be like you're both tired, you both want to sleep, which means one from both sides. But there's other things too. There's tantra, there's intimate breathing we can do together, there's sensate focus. There's a lots of exercises that you can do that are still arousing that don't necessarily mean that we have to have intercourse. Right.
So but you still get that good stimulation from it as well. So yeah.
That's dope. I never even thought of all of that stuff.
You better get in here and start getting freaky.
It's kind of it's brilliant to be completely honest. You know what I mean? It's just like the way that you're helping women from these aspects is completely different than what we thought of.
But there's balance, right? A lot of the times we don't want to spend time, saying to our partner, hey, Dahmari, I'm tired tonight, but what would be really great is if you gave me a scalp massage. That would feel amazing, right? So I always tell women, focus on you first, and then you can bring your partner into that and educate them on what you need to feel fulfilled. And then everybody's happy.
That's crazy. So what's like the biggest the people that come to you? What's like the main? Is it like a select group of people? People that have this issue or that issue.
So we're not therapy. We are pleasure coaches, and so I usually tell people and I can usually tell. So with the Quivr method, there is an application, so we don't just take anybody. And I can read that application and tell through what they're saying to me whether or not they're ready for coaching or whether or not they're ready for therapy. So the Quivr woman, or they should be in therapy. So the Quivr woman typically comes to me, the one that I'd accept, already knowing, hey, I just want more balance and I want to be able at the end of the day to say, damn, that was good, right? And so for her, it's about being able to say, I am ready to transform my life to pleasure first. And that may mean and getting comfortable with what some of us may consider being selfish, right? But the way that we coach it at Quivr is it's not selfish, it's self-care, right? And so I would say in terms of what that woman comes to us with, it's not so much an issue that they've got as much as it is, I just want to feel something again. And I want to be able to experience things on a big level, right? So I would say in terms of I have a problem, it would revolve around, I just don't know how to lay the foundation to being able to say from the boardroom to the bedroom, pleasure comes first in my life. And so I can set up these boundaries here. How do I do that? How do I get that moxie? It's one thing to say, hey, I'm a CEO and I know how to run a business, but can I run that business and run my life at the same time and have the two not cancel each other out in terms of I'm just miserable?
Right. So are you doing like a assessment or something?
So there's an application. So if you want to coach with Quivr, you would go out to our website or our link in bio if you follow us on socials. And you can click on that. And there's a couple things you can find is you'll find the Quivr method and it explains to you all about everything what it is. But then during that, it takes you to an application. And you fill out that application. It's about maybe 2.5 pages long. Some of it's just a radio button. You click yes, no, or whatever the situation is. But in other spaces, it says, hey, how do you, Dahmari, or how do you, Kim, define a pleasure first life? What does that mean? And it helps me understand where they're at. Because again, if someone comes to me and says, I have deep sexual trauma, and they want me to help them with that, I can't. That's a therapy thing. But if they're saying, I have deep sexual trauma, I know that I have deep sexual trauma, but I'm also in therapy and I'm ready to be coached because I don't want to stay in this space. I know what's kind of holding me back and I've got tools for that. Now I'm ready to go out there and explore and enjoy my life on a whole new level. Then I can say, yep, she's ready. So this application kind of tells me where you're at. and if you're a good fit for the Quivr method, because the work that we do is really intimate. So I want to make sure that this person is a good fit for us as well, right? So,
where did you get this idea of like creating this assessment or this quiz, the application? Like, where did you get that? Because I know that I need to do something like this with Ziga. You know what I mean? Where did you get this idea? How did you set it up? Like, who told you need to do this? You know what I mean? And
out of experience. Out of experience. So no one told me as much as I realized. I was at first, when you start a business, you're like, yes, you can come, you can be my customer, right? Because $1 is $1 at that point. But
not everybody's your customer.
Not everybody's my customer.
You got to figure out who's your customer. You got to figure out what they want, and then you got to give it to them.
Exactly. So what I realized was I was getting kind of a mixed bag. I was getting women who would come in and say, you know what, I'm just sad and I'm just lonely and I want help dating, right? And we can do that, but it's not our focus. I want to make sure that the whole woman is here, right? So for example, if a woman comes to me and says, I want to learn how to pop it in a handstand and twerk it and da-da-da, I can say, that's great. Is that for you or is that for a partner, right? And if they say, well, my partner wants and he likes or she likes, blah, 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 I'm like, come back when you're ready for you. Because there's a million YouTubes, there's a million learn how to ride classes, and there's all that stuff. And we will get there and we will do that. But that's not until like month 6 of being with us, right? We work on the whole woman. So if you come to me, if you come to Quivr, and I can tell that you're just like, I just want to learn bedroom tricks, this probably isn't the program for you. And what I learned was, as the right Quivr woman was coming to me, she was a very distinct, specific kind of a person.
What is that person?
Yes.
Who is the Quivr person needs to come to you?
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
Yes, that Quivr woman is probably...
Not probably. Who is that woman?
She is 35 to 65 plus.
Okay.
She most certainly makes over 100. Most of my clients are easy 150 plus range. 1,000 in terms of what their income is. She's very self-assured. She's also very convinced that she can do anything, right? But this area of her life might be an area of her life that she just hasn't quite mastered. The Quivr woman,
pleasure.
Yes, exactly.
She hasn't mastered pleasure.
She hasn't mastered pleasure, and she hasn't mastered the balance, right? She works.
So when you say they haven't mastered